Come on back, peaceful.
I'm right here, family, and I'm not going back. It's your girl Shawnie from the Talk Truth with Shawnie channel here on YouTube. And once again, family, I'm coming to you with another Time Out with Shawnie, where I talk to you, family, about a few things that are going on, or maybe share something with you about our history as a people, or share current events with you, family, whichever one. But we are live, family, so let's jump right on into it and let's get it started, family. Shalom, family. Once again, I'm going to wait for a few of you to come in here, family. But it's your girl, Shawnie, from the Talk Truth with Shawnie channel here on YouTube, once again. And I'm coming to you, family, with another time of sharing because I want to share some information with you that you might not know, family. And that's what we're going to do right here, right now. Because you know what? I was reading a few things, and I was talking to a sister earlier today, and we was just talking about, some events from history. And family, I was talking to her about Aunt Jemima. And when I was talking to her about Aunt Jemima, the things that I was sharing with her, she was shocked at because she didn't know, family. Also, too, I was telling her about what was going on with Harriet Tubman's house. And I was talking to her about Claudette Colvin. And she didn't know these things, family. So it dawned on me. If she doesn't know these things, how many of us out there don't know these things then? So I began to think about it, and I said, you know what? Instead of me talking about what I was going to talk about tonight, which was Jonathan and David, I'm going to share a video with you, family, and I hope that you enjoy it. I hope that you gain some information from it, and I hope that it helps you, family. So let's get on right into it, and let me share these videos with you, family. Okay, so the first one we're going to start out with is the real Aunt Jemima. Did you know Aunt Jemima was a real person? Did you know that Aunt Jemima was a former slave? She was a slave, family, and she made a recipe called pancakes. That is her recipe, family. And not only did she do that, family, but once she got out of slavery, family, she continued on until one day General Mills came to her, family, and they began to talk to her about her recipe. And they first showcased her recipe at a World's Fair, family, and it took off from their, family. But what you're going to learn is the sad ending of Miss Aunt Jemima, which her real name, family, you're going to find out is Nancy Green, family. And what General Mills did was they took her recipe after she died away from the family. They didn't give the family no money for the recipe, no future profit for the recipe. No, they took it and then they began to profit off of it millions of dollars. Family, you're going to find out that the man that was working on the documentary for Nancy Green, known as Aunt Jemima, he found out during the time of the making of the documentary that Miss Nancy Green, once again, aka Aunt Jemima, she was one of his ancestors. Yeah, I said that. So, family, let's get on into it. Let me share my screen with you, and we're gonna get this started, family. I'm gonna go where I need to go. I added the screen now. Let me see if the screen is there. Add screen. Yes. Okay, family. So we're gonna kick this off and get it started. And I'm gonna start with Miss Nancy Green herself, family. Let's get it. Let's go.
With America in the midst of this so-called racial reckoning, untold stories are coming to light. And tonight, a look at a woman born into slavery who would go on to create a delicious recipe many Americans have likely enjoyed. Her descendants hope in our country's push to right past wrongs that there's not an overcorrection and that her legacy can live on. Our Deborah Roberts reports.
Under the grass, it's barely noticeable, an unmarked grave, covering what for nearly a century was an untold story of one of America's hidden figures.
I mean, who else has experienced slavery and then walked through all of the experiences of America? I mean, Jim Crow, segregation, lynchings.
You've probably never heard her name, but Nancy Green has likely been in your kitchen.
When my mom would prepare pancakes, that was just part of the whole experience of being in the household, is that you sat there and waited for the pancakes to be prepared so that you could get them, hot off the griddle.
Right there on your pancake box.
As a kid, my mother always made those.
Everybody ate those pancakes.
And Jemima pancakes without
Her face on the box was probably the one way that households were integrated.
and some butter and syrup. You'll like 'em. Aunt Jemima. Perfect pancakes in 10 shakes.
The Aunt Jemima recipe, created by Nancy Green, and with it, the birth of the American pancake. Long before she pioneered that famous mix, Nancy Green was born into slavery in Montgomery County, Kentucky.
She was taken away from, she's not with her family, but she is learning to survive and use her God-given talent to still push forward and move forward, which is the story of most African-American people in the United States, that they used what they had to become what they were.
After the Civil War, Green moved to a divided Chicago, becoming a strong voice at Olivet Baptist Church, the oldest Black congregation.
This church was noted for its work to shield those who had escaped slavery, who arrived here in Chicago, because there were many slave catchers in Chicago still pursuing people who were of African descent.
Sherry Williams lives in Chicago's Bronzeville neighborhood and has been shining a light on Nancy Green's story for more than a decade.
Most people have no idea who Nancy Green was. Why is that, do you think?
I believe because she is looked upon as a character, as opposed to a living, breathing individual.
Even connecting the dots for one of her descendants.
She actually opened up a box that we couldn't open.
Literally opened a box. Marcus Hayes only recently learned about his family's past.
When I found out about it, to be honest, I was shocked and excited at the same time. Living in the United States, some African Americans, as you may know, it is hard for them to go that far back to get who they're connected to.
A history forged through a recipe Nancy Green first whipped up for the family she cooked and cared for.
It was so good that the boys would now tell everyone, hey, I have a caretaker who cooks for us, and she makes this amazing recipe, and she calls them flapjacks. And the milling company heard about it and knew that she was using their meal. They came and sought her out.
Just like that, Aunt Jemima was born. The big debut, the World's Fair at Chicago's Jackson Park back in 1893. Green selling 50,000 boxes of the now famous pancake mix.
She was the trusted face back then. You know, anybody who would look at an African-American woman cooking, they knew that they could trust her cooking.
And over all those years, ads for Aunt Jemima never mentioning Nancy Green.
She was a businesswoman.
That is the real life Nancy Green family.
Well, as a storyteller, as a cook, as a nurse.
After Green died in 1923, other women became the living Aunt Jemima symbols, ambassadors hired by Quaker Oats to continue the legacy.
My great aunt, Lillian, she went to Dallas, Texas. She was discovered by Quaker Oats to be their spokesperson.
Vera Harris always heard the stories about Aunt Lillian and how she helped portray Aunt Jemima for decades.
When Quaker Oats would bring her back to Hawkins, Texas, that everybody would be real excited.
Aunt Lillian putting her small Texas community on the map.
Hawkins is the pancake capital of Texas, is that right?
Yes, it was declared the pancake capital of Texas because of my Aunt Lillian.
And unlike Nancy Green, Lillian Richard with her own headstone and a plaque in Hawkins, a pancake breakfast every year too, educating others about the faces and names behind the Aunt Jemima brand and image.
I believe that some people may have thought that those faces were not real.
Real faces, real stories. Vera Harris and Marcus Hayes say they're now in danger of being erased. In June, PepsiCo, Quaker Oats' parent company, announced the Aunt Jemima brand would be phased out by the end of September.
When you learned that the Aunt Jemima face on this box, on the syrup, is likely to be phased out, what was your reaction?
I was taken aback. I was really shocked because I knew people didn't realize that those were real people. And, you know, to phase them out would kind of erase their history.
She's just not a character that I really want her legacy to be told. That this is a real person. and this is her recipe. And she fed the world from her flapjacks.
There are people who are concerned right now about images, antiquated images, these minstrel images, which is why PepsiCo is thinking maybe it's time for that image to go. What's your feeling about that?
And no time ever have I heard anyone in my community say that this image was one that was derogatory. So I don't know where that sentiment is coming from.
In a statement to ABC News, Pepsi saying, "This is a sensitive matter that must be handled thoughtfully and with care. We respect the women who have contributed to our brand story and will approach our rebranding with their heritage in mind." The company committing $400 million to various causes to help with diversity, but so far, no direct contact with these two families. Does PepsiCo owe anything to the descendants of these women?
I really think they do.
Pepsi not yet announcing the future of the longtime brand. For so long, it was called Aunt Jemima pancakes. What should it be called then? Aunt Green's pancakes?
You know what? We don't know what it can be called, long as she is somewhere in the mix. Call it Nancy Green. It's not about money. This is about the truth.
A truth and a story now being told no matter what happens with the brand.
Nancy, you're a storyteller, and now your story is being told again.
After a decade-long push, just this month, Sherry finally raised the money to give this trailblazer a proper headstone and marker she's long deserved. Headstone artist Mark Hunt not even aware of Nancy Green's past.
It's been an inspiration to me, and it's been an eye-opener for me. Yeah, because a lot of people like myself didn't know what she did.
Carefully etching a face that will now be preserved for generations.
Oh, my goodness. Oh my God. Oh my God. Phenomenal.
Sherry getting her first look at the headstone she's fought so hard for.
I love it. Look at the details.
After lying beneath this grass in anonymity for nearly a century, a moment of hope in the middle of America's racial reckoning.
I'm pretty sure she's smiling down because there's so many people like my Aunt Lydia and others that contribute in to make this country great, and people just didn't know. But if you get that story out, it will encourage other young women, black and white, to go out and do some great things.
And a recognition of the difficult work that lies ahead.
Let's fight for what we know to be right. Let's fight for a change. It is motivation to keep pushing. Although we may not be facing the things that she faced, we still have our own oppressions, if you will, our own challenges. And I think for me, it gives me the courage, it gives me the motivation to push forward and make sure that you do something great in this world, that you leave a mark, that people know about you.
Now I'm going to stop right there, family. And the reason why I stopped right there is because I want you to hear me out and look at her face as I'm talking to your family. Because like I said to you before, the young man that you see in the video with the glasses on, this young man found out while he was working on this documentary that he is related to this woman. This is one of his ancestors, Miss Nancy Green. But I want you to remember something that was said in this video. General Mills made millions, if not billions of dollars off of this woman, Nancy Green, a slave. She was born in slavery. They made millions of dollars off of it. And I want you to remember this part right here. Because remember, family, let me show it right here. Hold on a second. I want you to remember this part right here, family. General Mills made millions of dollars off of this woman. They knew that this woman is the original creator of the thing that we call pancakes, and people in the South, they did in my mother's time call them hotcakes. General Mills didn't even honor her with a headstone. They didn't even honor her with a headstone. They took her family to court in order to take away all future profit off of her pancakes, and they stole her recipe from her family. So that's how General Mills decided that they wanted to do to a woman and her legacy of making and creating pancakes in America. Remember that, family. Now, the man that you see right here, the woman didn't even raise enough money, and I want to talk to you about it, family, because, see, this woman right here, y'all bless her. Y'all bless her, and if she's not awake, y'all please wake her up in the name of Yeshua. This woman right here, she went around to the communities, and she was talking to the black community about this woman, Nancy Green, and how she was just trying to get the woman a headstone. And we always talk about we can tell our own story. We can make our own movie. We can do this, that, and the other for our own people. But yet our people, and I'm just going to be honest with you, family. I'm sorry, family, if you hear the thunder, because it's thundering here in New Jersey. But like I said, family, I'm going to be honest with you, family. We always talk about this and that and what we're going to do for our own people. This woman right here went around trying to gather the money to get this legend a headstone. And our family, our people couldn't even come together and give enough to get Miss Nancy Green a headstone. So this man right here, Mark Hunt, when he found out about it, he knew the woman didn't have enough money for the headstone. So this man right here, he stepped in, and he not only did the graphics for the headstone, he put in the rest of the money that was needed to get the headstone for this woman. That's something else, family. That says a whole lot. See, we talk the talk, but are we ready to walk the walk? Are we ready to stand by what we say when we say we are our brother's keeper? Are we really, family? Let's examine a few things and let's see, family. Because I got something to tell you that's really shocking. Not only am I going to tell you about it after I show you, but I'm going to talk to you about it. And let me tell you this, family. Harriet Tubman home in Auberry, New York, no longer belongs to the black community in America. It no longer belongs to us. Rosa Parks' house is not in America anymore. It no longer belongs to us. But I'm going to show you the man that it does belong to, and I'm going to show you the people, the government program that Rosa Parks' house belongs to now. I'm going to show you, and you're going to listen to what this man said. All right, let's get it. Let's go. Let's move on to the next one. So we're going to talk about Rosa Parks. Rosa Parks, her estate in upstate New York is now owned by, as you can see right here, New National Park celebrates Harriet Tubman legacy. The church doesn't own it anymore. So let's look at 3 of Harriet Tubman videos. They're short videos, but we're going to look at them because the church that once owned Harriet Tubman house, they went around America announcing this, trying to save the estate and keep it in our people's hands. And our people, some of them responded and some of them just blew it off like it wasn't nothing. So now the government owns Harriet Tubman's houses, her home for the elderly, and they own her property, family. And there's nothing that we can do about it now. There's nothing that we can do about it now. See, when we had a chance to step in, we didn't step in and do the right thing. So now the government has it. And now the government is running the show. I'm going to show you, family, that once the government took over, right before they took over, there was a group of black people that went in there and they were stealing artifacts. They was taking artifacts from Harriet Tubman estate. I'm going to show you, family. And they began to auction them off because I'm going to let this man give you his own testimony. But let's look at this, family, now.
If you step onto these grounds, you know that you're in a hallowed place.
This property on the edge of Auburn, a small city in central New York, is the place where Harriet Tubman spent the last 50 years of her life.
Beyond the barn was her vegetable garden.
Karen Hill is president and CEO of the nonprofit organization that has preserved the property and fought for it to become one of America's national parks.
Her legacy is embodied in her core values and how we lift them up: freedom, faith, family, community, justice, self-determination. These are the things that every day of her life she tried to advance.
Tubman secured her place in history as one of the conductors on the Underground Railroad, a network of paths and safe houses that brought thousands of slaves from the South to freedom in the North before the Civil War. Tubman risked her life again and again by returning to the South to rescue her siblings, her elderly parents, and other slaves. She's credited with personally leading some 70 slaves to freedom. Tubman was born into slavery on a Maryland plantation, but around age 27, she ran away and escaped to a free state, Pennsylvania, where she started a new life in Philadelphia. During the Civil War, she served as a nurse and a spy for the North and became the first woman to lead an armed raid, which rescued some 700 slaves in South Carolina. After the war, she settled in Auburn, a free, land-owning black woman. The area was progressive, central to both the abolitionist and suffrage movements.
This is the crown jewel of the Underground Railroad movement. This is the touchstone. This is where Harriet came after completing her campaigns.
This brick house was Tubman's base when she wasn't traveling around the country, giving speeches, fighting for the women's right to vote, and raising money to support freed slaves. She eked out a living on proceeds from a book, a small pension, her farm, and a brick-making business. The property was home not just to her extended family, but to the less fortunate who needed a place to stay. Tubman even built an infirmary,
where she provided free health care to everybody, not just to African Americans, but to anybody who needed it. So this is the remaining home for the aged.
Tubman started a home for the elderly funded by donations. This is the only one of the original 9 cottages that remains.
In town, there was a home for the aged, but it was segregated. It was for whites only. And so she provided this home so that the former slave could age in dignity and in grace.
Tubman lived into her 90s and died in 1913. She was buried in the cemetery nearby. Her home fell out of the family's possession and into disrepair. In the 1990s, the AME Zion Church, the church Tubman belonged to, bought the home and started a nonprofit to restore the property.
Also, when she was born, her name was not Harriet.
In 2006, it opened the visitor center and started giving regular tours.
When she used the home, it was 4 bedrooms, one up front, one in the back, this one down here.
With the National Park Service now involved, they're hoping to do even more. Frank Barrows supervises the new Harriet Tubman National Historical Park.
Bringing the national park to a community does a few things. It certainly raises the visibility of the site. National parks are also an economic driver because of the tourism dollars that are spent. For every dollar spent in federal funds on national parks, $10 is put back into local economies.
The park is open at a time of renewed interest in Tubman's life. 2 feature films about her are in the works, and in 2020, the Treasury Department is due to unveil a design for a new $20 bill with Tubman on the front. There's also a second national park dedicated to the Underground Railroad chapter of her life, opening this month in Maryland.
National parks are a great source of community identity and pride. It means something to say that I'm from the town where Harriet Tubman lived. I'm from the town where Harriet Tubman continued her legacy and where she's buried.
This is my great-grandfather. This is Harriet's nephew.
Judith Bryant is the great-great-grandniece of Harriet Tubman, the great-great-granddaughter of a brother Tubman rescued in 1854.
I wouldn't be here if she hadn't done what she did. Okay.
She lives in a nearby house built by Tubman's nephew in 1901.
Good.
Bryant says Tubman's extended family in Auburn was very close-knit.
These are all family members. That was her motivating factor. And so she rescued her family first.
Bryant's mother knew the elderly Tubman when she was a child.
But my mother said Harriet would come and sit in the corner by the door. And she would appear to doze off until somebody said something that was either maybe a little off color. And she would
perk up?
Yes, perk up, open her eyes, and make it understood that she didn't quite approve of it.
Bryant and her family donated Tubman's bed to the park and a family sewing machine. Bryant also has a collection of Tubman memorabilia.
This is actually a 1911 bill
for a hospital stay at the end of Tubman's life.
This is a pamphlet.
A pamphlet featuring Tubman and other local dignitaries.
Now, this is a picture that is not often seen.
Bryant is proud to preserve the legacy of her great-great-great-aunt, and she's thrilled the new national park will now do the same.
I mean, it's a wonderful thing, not just for Auburn, but for the country. And people need to see this story and see what went on here.
Now, family, the reason why
This shows Harriet
oh,
Tubman
wait a minute, hold on one
at a
second.
very young age.
Let me think. Okay. Now, family, we're gonna move on to this video, but I want you to I'm gonna go back to the original Harriet Tubman I was showing you because I want to show you something, family. Okay, let me get it. I'm probably gonna have to go back one in order to get it. You're right here. This is what I want to show you, family. I want you to recognize that they said the AME Church took it over and that the AME Church was trying to raise funds, but they couldn't raise enough funds. Now, family, so that's the reason why the National Park part of the government, they stepped in, National Park Service stepped in, and they started making bids for the property. But one of the first things that they're not talking about in this video is the fact that they took Harriet Tubman's body off of the property. And when they took it off of the property, then that's when they moved it to where it is currently at. But I want to show you something about her tombstone that a lot of people skip, family. They miss it. So let me just go to where her tombstone was. Let's just back it up. Let me try to find it here. Okay, I got to move on a little bit. Move back. Move back and move up. Bear with me, family. Hold on. Because it's somewhere in here. I think it is. Right here. I want you to notice something, family. What do you see at the top of her headstones? You see rocks. You see that they put rocks at the top of her headstones, family. And you know the reason why those rocks are there? Because that's a Hebrew tradition. They do that over in Africa, family. They also, and the Jews picked it up, and the Jews do it too. But that originated from our people putting rocks on top of where they buried at. So they're letting you know without even saying anything, family. They're letting you know that they knew Harriet Tubman was a Hebrew Israelite. Yes, family, they knew it. That's the reason why them rocks are on top of her tombstone, family. Okay, let's move on to the next time of sharing, family, because I want you to hear what this man has to say, family, and then I'm going to stop the video and I'm going to talk to you about it a little bit there. Listen to him.
You mentioned that in order for this to be a triumph, in order for this to be a Smithsonian museum, it had to have great original objects. Give me an example. When I came back to do this, everybody was worried about raising money. I was worried about finding artifacts because I didn't know that they were really there. I hoped they were. But when I look at what we found...
Remember what he just said, family.
I have to begin with the material that we discovered on Harriet Tubman. Harriet Tubman, the great abolitionist, the General Moses who led people free from the period before the Civil War, from the South into the North. This is a story I thought I wanted to tell, but I believed there was new material on Harriet Tubman around. One day I get a call from an amazing bibliophile, a man named Charles Blockson, and he calls and he says, "Lonnie, I've got material from Harriet Tubman you need to see." And he said, "I've got it in Philadelphia. Come to Philadelphia to see it." And I remember thinking, why am I wasting my time? There is no Harriet Tubman material. But I thought, at least I get a cheesesteak out of the deal, right? So I load up and go to Philadelphia. And we go into this archive, and he pulls out one box. And I'm really skeptical. He pulls out a photograph of Harriet Tubman that no one had ever seen. I'd never seen it before. And I'm a 19th century historian. And he began to pull materials out that told me this was a treasure trove. And then he pulls out a hymnal that has all those spirituals that Harriet Tubman sang when she'd go into the South, help the enslaved escape, swing low, sweet chariot, steal away Jesus. And even though she couldn't read, she kept that hymnal. And by the time he pulled that hymnal out, everybody's crying. So I suddenly realized that there were going to be these treasures that I could have never imagined, and that there were people, in essence, waiting for this museum to be able to open their doors and say, make this accessible to the public. Make sure this is preserved forever.
These things were in boxes.
They were in boxes.
In attics, in basements.
And I believe that the way to tell the story was to get into those basements, attics, and trunks. I believe that so much of the 20th century, most of the 19th century, was in people's homes. And what's been wonderful is time and time again, people come to us and bring these things out.
Now, family, I'm going to exit out right here, but I want you to remember his face because I'm going to put it right here. Family, I want you to remember his face right here because this man right here is the man that actually saved the artifacts of Harriet Tubman when the NAACP and when the AME Church was trying, after they sold the property, when they was trying to go up in there and they was trying to take all of the artifacts that was found in Harriet Tubman's attic and trunk, and also too in her relative, her great niece that I just showed you on the other video. This is the man that saved those artifacts. Now, if you remember, family, let me show you this right here, family. If you remember, family, where is it at? It's coming up. Bear with me, family. That same picture was in Harriet Tubman's niece's album. So how did this picture go from Harriet Tubman's niece's album, so you can see the whole, showing that it was once in an album? In the other video, you just saw it in an album, family. So how do you go from it being in Harriet Tubman's great niece's family album to all of a sudden mysteriously winding up in, getting ready to wind up, I should say, in a museum for Harriet Tubman? Who took it? Not only did they take the picture, family, but they took the great niece's whole album, family. They took the whole album. I don't know. I'm not going to blame nobody for nothing, but I'm going to tell you something. If it wasn't for this man right here, if it wasn't for this man, see, remember you saw that in her great niece's album. If it wasn't for this man right here, Harriet Tubman's artifacts, historical artifacts, they would have been sold on the black market. And I have no doubt that some of them weren't sold on the black market. Because you see, it's people like this. This woman right here. This is not a black woman, family, with the bun on top of her head. But yet you're going to hear her talk about nothing but money when it comes to Harriet Tubman. Now let's play this video and check this video out.
For more than a century, settlement houses have been a key stepping stone for Bostonians seeking a better life. That certainly applies in the South End to the Harriet Tubman House, a building with a rich history even depicted on its walls. But for United South End Settlements, the building has come to be seen as the stepping stone in serving the community in the future. To explain how the mission can be advanced by selling the property are two of the organization's leaders, the president and CEO, Shawnie Lytle, and former executive director, Frida Garcia. Thank you both for being with us.
Thank you.
I want to start with Frida Garcia because this has to do with the history of the Tubman House in the U.S. Yes, that building is really sort of a shrine to the community.
Well, it is and it isn't. Okay, it is a shrine because it takes the name of.
Hold on one second. What does she mean? It is, or it is, and it isn't. Now watch and see what she start talking about, family. And let me remind you, this is not a black woman. This is a Spanish woman. How did a Spanish woman become the authority over black history and slavery? Spanish people didn't even start coming into this country until after our ancestors had already been beaten for marching in the streets, beaten by dogs for marching in the streets during civil rights. It wasn't until really the 80s that you started seeing Spanish people start coming into this country. So how does a Spanish woman become the head of Harriet Tubman's museum? And then she has the gall to say, yeah, it is and it isn't. But let's go on to see what her main objective was, because she's going to make it real clear. Let's get it. Let's go.
It's former Harriet Tubman House on Holyoke Street, which was very, obviously, it was created in 1903 by black women who were concerned about black women who were coming north to work and needed a place to stay and a place for resources. So it goes back to that history, and that's where some of the energy that one feels and ownership about the new Harriet Tubman House has. But the reality is that
the
when
new
that
Harriet
building
Tubman
was
House.
built, the agency and the community was going through a great deal of upheaval. I mean, the 60s and leading up to the creation of this building was the start and almost the full-fledged of urban renewal.
Urban renewal and a lot of displacement from the South End, too.
Thank you. And so, in a way, it is associated with all of that was going on in the community. So, and since it's opened its doors, obviously it's been a place where lots of wonderful things have happened. But we shouldn't get away from the fact of the reality of what went into creating that building. One reality is that it almost ate up the endowment of the agency.
Money.
Because they set out to do a capital campaign, had a very difficult time doing it. And when I came in 1981, I remember a board meeting, maybe about 10 years after I had been there, where the treasurer announced that they had finally gotten the endowment back to what it was before they had built that building. So in a way, you could look at it and say it almost did away with the agency. I mean, that's pretty serious. And the reality is that when it was created at a time when they thought electricity was cheap. And when they turned on the switches in 1975, the electrical bill was $75,000, which, I mean, they couldn't sustain that. And so they started patching and making changes, which the building continues to suffer from today. So it's some very positive things, and then there's some other realities that are really painful and contributed in a way to some of the things that are going on now.
Well, sure, what's going on with the building it also has to do with the mission of USCS. There's more gentrification in the South End, but still a lot of people of need there and in Lower Roxbury. So what's become of the mission?
So over the last couple of years, United South End Settlements has really been focused on our strategic plan and really understanding what the impact is that we can have. The reality is over 30% of children in the South End are living below the poverty line. That's not something we think about when we think of the city of Boston and what's happening there, given the gentrification that is there. And then we know that there are more children and families who are struggling.
All right, family, I'm going to stop the video right here because I think it's been made pretty clear. And I want to remind you, family, these two women are not black women. They are not African-American women. Yeah, the woman with the scarf on, she looks like she's black, but she is not black. She is Latino. So the Harriet Tubman Museum that's in Boston, it is being run by these two Hispanic women, family. Also, too, I want to tell you something, family, because you got to ask yourself the question, family. Why is it that they did not put the man that I showed you in the previous video? Why didn't they put him in charge of that museum? Why, family? What happened to the money, family? What happened to the money? She says that the woman with the bun, the Hispanic lady with the bun, she's telling you that the museum didn't have the money, right? The other Hispanic woman, she's telling you that it was in dire straits, right, family? And she also too told you that they got the dowry back, right? So that means they got the that means they got the money back, family. They got the money back. Where did the money go to? Where did the money for the Harriet Tubman Museum, that's not even in New York, it's in Boston. Where did the money go? Where did it disappear to? Where did some of the artifacts from Harriet Tubman estate, where did some of them go to? If it hadn't been for that black man, family, we would not have those artifacts that you see being shown in that museum. If it hadn't been for that black man, family, finding them, traveling all over the country to find them, family, we would not have that. Our history is under siege. And it's not just white people that are trying to lay hold and take over our history, family. I want you to realize that, family. It's not just white people doing it, because these two women right here are Hispanic, family. Okay, so let's move on, family. There's the name of the video right there. You can go up on the internet and YouTube, and you can watch it for yourself. Okay, family, let's move on to this. I showed you that. Okay, so let's move on now to Miss Claudette Cloven, family. And I want you to understand something. Before there ever was a Rosa Parks, there was a Claudette Colvin family. Yes. So let's play her video right now. Let's find out a little bit about her. And then we're going to hear Miss Claudette Colvin speak for herself. Okay, family? Let's get it.
Claudette Colvin. Claudette Colvin was born on September 5th, 1939 in Montgomery, Alabama, where she was adopted by C.P. Colvin and Mary Ann Colvin. At the age of 4, Colvin experienced her first taste of racial inequality. She learned that black people could not touch white people if they talk about it. In 1955, at the age of 15, Colvin was attending Booker T. Washington High School. She relied on the city bus for transportation to and from school. On March 2nd, 1955, Colvin was riding the city bus in the colored-only section home from school as normal. The bus became overcrowded and all of the white-only seats were taken. During segregation, blacks were seen as inferiors and were required to give up their bus seats for whites. A white man boarded the bus and was standing because all of the seats were taken. The bus driver ordered Colvin and 3 other black women to stand at the back of the bus. As the seats became vacant, a pregnant woman, Miss Hamilton, boarded the bus and sat next to Colvin. The bus driver again ordered Colvin and Mrs. Hamilton to stand at the back of the bus. They both refused even further to move. The bus driver then called the police to remedy the situation. As the officer arrived, he ordered 2 black passengers to move to the back of the bus so Colvin and Mrs. Hamilton could move. Mrs. Hamilton, being pregnant, complied with the officer's request. Colvin, however, did not move. She was forced from the bus by the officers and arrested. During the drive to the police station, it is said that the officers continuously berated and harassed Colvin, a child, about the size of her breast. Colvin's bus incident was 8 months before Rosa Parks' historic bus encounter. Colvin stated that her mother ordered her to remain silent about the incident. Colvin was later convicted of disturbing the peace, violating civil rights laws, and assaulting on a police officer. Colvin became one of the plaintiffs in the Browder versus Gale case. Attorney Fred Gary filed the case to fight and end bus segregation. Colvin's case was appealed by the U.S. Supreme Court on November 13, 1956. The case was upheld on December 20th. Around the same time, the Supreme Court ordered the state of Alabama to end bus segregation. Colvin eventually became a mother and moved to New York in 1958. She was forced to live with her sister because she had difficulty finding a job. She garnered a bit of fame because of her bus encounter, and employers labeled her as a troublemaker. She eventually found a nursing job, which she maintained for 35 years. Colvin is often a forgotten piece of the civil rights movement. She was the initial trigger that helped to organize the Montgomery bus boycott. Rosa Parks is often viewed as the only black person to experience racism on the bus. We should not belittle Miss Parks' involvement within the movement, but we should also recognize and never forget the contributions of others. Colvin was a brave teen girl who was tired of facing racism and injustice. Her friend stated that before the bus incident, Colvin was passionately stating that her constitutional rights are being violated on the city bus. I am telling this story because it is important that we know and understand all of the pieces of our historical puzzle. Miss Claudette Colvin, be proud. Stand on your shoulders. For more information, please visit www.ontheshoulders1.com.
Okay, family. So now we've learned about, before there ever was a Rosa Parks, there was a Claudette Colvin family. And family, it was 9 months later that Rosa Parks sat on the bus and refused to get up. Because see, what happened is the NAACP, when they found out about Claudette, they had a meeting, family, in Montgomery, okay? And they decided that she was too young for her to be the face of the civil rights movement. Right, family? There wouldn't be a civil rights movement if it wasn't for Claudette. So they had a meeting with one another, and they decided that she was too young, so they picked out Rosa Parks. All that stuff that you hear, them talking about, Rosa Parks was the face of the civil rights movement. Rosa Parks this, Rosa Parks that. No, she wasn't, family. In fact, Rosa Parks was about the fourth person, family, when you get down into it. And this guy is going to break it down and explain it to you even more, family. But what I find so amazing is this. The NAACP, they're supposed to be for every black person, family. But yet, the NAACP, they discriminated against Claudette, and they chose a light-skinned Negro woman, Rosa Parks, to represent the face of the NAACP. And they should not have done that because they discriminated against Claudette, family. And then after that, that's when they all voted and decided that Martin Luther King was going to be the face of the civil rights movement, family. So let's see this right here, family. Let's watch this video right here, and then I'm going to come back and I'm going to talk to you. For those of you who are saying shalom in the chat, or you may be talking to me in the chat, I cannot see what you're talking about because I haven't learned how to be able to view the chat and to talk on the video at the same time. I'm going to have to ask Pastor Kelly about how to do that because he does that phenomenally. So let's move on and let's see what this man has to say, and let's hear what Claudette has to say in her own words. Okay, let's get it. Let's go. Let me play it back, family. We go back.
This bleak month, March 2020, is certainly one for the history books, but every March, including this one, we recognize women's history. And tonight, we honor Claudette Colvin, a civil rights crusader arrested for refusing to give up her seat on a bus in segregated Alabama. Now, this was before Rosa Parks did the same, sparking the history-making Montgomery bus boycott. Here's Colvin's incredible story and the surprising reason it went untold for so long. You have heard the story, but likely didn't know this name.
A lot of accolades went towards Rosa, and nobody knew about Claudette.
Claudette Colvin was just 15 years old on March 2nd, 1955, when she refused to give up her seat on a Montgomery, Alabama bus, 9 months before Rosa Parks.
When the news reporters asked me why didn't I get up, I said, history had me glued to the seat. I said it felt as though Harriet Tubman's hand was pushing me down on one shoulder, and Sojourner Truth's hand was pushing me down on another shoulder. And between these two historical women's, iconic women's, I could not move. I was paralyzed in that seat.
And largely omitted from history books despite her courage and boldness as a teen. Today, at 80 years old, she still recalls the day with clarity, remembering the exact exchange she had with the officer who tried to make her give up her seat.
And I repeat, I told him I paid my fare, and it's my constitutional right to sit here. So anyway, he yelled to the bus driver, he had no jurisdiction here. So we thought it was all over. If he didn't have no jurisdiction here, we thought it was over with because this is a traffic patrolman. So I wasn't breaking the law, just that the white lady didn't have a seat.
The magnitude of her act of defiance didn't hit her immediately, not until she heard the lock of the jail cell.
You can hear when the keys go click, or you hear that sound, right? They lock you in.
She says of sitting in that jail cell that those were the longest hours of her life. But those 3 hours would also change her life's trajectory.
I thought they knew. I thought people knew that they were people before Rosa. Her arrest record is what proved it. Because without that arrest record, you would only know of Rosa, because that was staged behind Claudette. Going to the NAACP at 15 years old, and once she got there, they said that a black girl, unwed, dark skinned, could not be the face for the Alabama boycott. So Rosa Parks stepped up. She was at NAACP. I think she was the secretary at the time. And she stepped up. She was light skinned. She was married. She fit the bill. She was black. And she went on the bus. Refused to get up.
Before Claudette or Rosa, hundreds were arrested for doing the same. But it was Claudette who, along with 3 other women, became the first to challenge the law in the Alabama courts. The rest is history. But what happened earlier this month in New York City
have this permanent recognition of this great civil rights activist.
In celebration of Women's History Month, Claudette Colvin finally got her due. Getting her own way, you could say. In the Bronx, New York, where she currently resides, at the corner of East Tremont Avenue and Unionport Road, you will now find Claudette Colvin Way. Fitting for a woman who has paved the way for so many others.
Now I'm going to stop the video right here, family. You can go back and look at it because I have it right here for you to go back and look at. And you can also, too, if you go on the YouTube channel, Democracy Now!, You can watch the full interview with her and you can find out what the NAACP actually did to her. Because, see, this story about her being pregnant, it was a lie that was made up by the NAACP because they didn't want her. They said, we can't have a 15, 16-year-old woman representing us, being the face of the civil rights movement, because you know why, family? It was embarrassing to them that a young 16-year-old girl had more courage and more strength in her and more defiance in her to take a stand than those grown folks that was a part of the NAACP. So that's the reason why Rosa Parks got in place there. And that's a shame that the NAACP lied on Miss Claudette. Now, if you are black, you know that we call the elders who are not our relatives or the elders who live in our neighborhoods, we say Miss. So we would say Miss Nancy, Miss Claudette, Miss Harriet. Right, family? Yeah, if you black, you know that already. But I just think it's a real shame. And this woman right now, she is fighting, family, for her legacy. Because the NAACP, they didn't even mention the woman. Nobody knew about her and she had nothing to prove that she was the first one to do it outside of her arrest record. Like the man said in there, because the NAACP, when they was asked about Claudette, they denied it. They denied the family. She tells you in the interview on Democracy Now! She didn't even know Rosa Parks. But yet the NAACP, they made up this big story, family, about how Claudette was in her NAACP class and all this other nonsense. It's not true, family. And you can hear it right out the words of Miss Claudette herself. If you go to Democracy Now! And watch her interview, she goes all in on the NAACP and how they lied. And I want to point out one more thing, family, before we move on. If you notice what Miss Claudette said, she said that she had a book of the Constitution. See, back there in those times, family, I'm telling you, family, our parents, and for some of you, our grandparents, they knew, family, and they had the children well equipped. She went to a school that was segregated, and her teacher, Miss Claudette teacher, refused to teach them English. You know what she did? She taught them the history from Africa. She refused to teach them English. She refused to teach them American history. She taught them the history that comes from Africa, our people, our Hebrew people, not the Hamites, but our Hebrew people. So that's the reason why Miss Claudette, she knew about Harriet Tubman, and she knew about Sojourner Truth. She knew about, when you listen to her talk, family, she knew a lot of things that we're just learning now. She was taught that in that segregated college school by her school teacher. And Miss Claudette walked around with the Constitution, a book of the Constitution, so that if she ran into any trouble, she could just open up the constitutional book that she had and she could speak to whoever she needed to speak to. I think that's really something that our grandparents and parents equipped the children back in the day better than we equip our children today. That really says a whole lot, family, without saying anything. All right, let's move on to the next time, because I want to show you something right here. Is this the video? I think this is the video. Yeah, I want to show you where Rosa Parks' house is right now. Rosa Parks' house is not in America, and I want you to listen very carefully to what the man who bought the house from Rosa Parks' niece has to say about the house. Rosa Parks' niece went around trying to gather up enough donations to save the house that Rosa Parks was born and raised in, and the black community failed her. I'm going to say it again. We failed to step up to the plate, family. So a German man stepped in and he bought the house, and for $13,000, he had the house brought over to Germany and he had it assembled. But I want you to listen to what he says, because he says that if we want it back, we're going to have to pay a huge price for it. So now he saved the house, and thank y'all that he saved the house. But now he want us to pay some big bucks for that house. Okay, so let me roll it so you can see.
Nestled among Berlin's apartment blocks, the home of an American civil rights icon. This house was moved from Detroit, where Rosa Parks lived after her act of defiance helped end the segregation laws in America's South. It was 1955 when the seamstress on her way home from work refused to give up her seat for a white passenger. Little did she know it would make her a face of the civil rights movement. So when a Berlin-based artist discovered her home was to be demolished, he had it transported to Germany, piece by piece.
This house really belongs in the United States. It doesn't belong here. But because it is here, more people will have the opportunity to think about why it was that the house was put on the demolition list to begin with. So America lost this house, and America has to do something powerful in order to get it back.
Ryan Mendoza was given the house by the niece of Rosa Parks, who could not raise the money for its preservation. He paid $13,000 to have it transported and rebuilt.
She defied the odds. She defied injustice.
Parks was honored and celebrated later in life, but decades earlier she had to flee to the house after receiving death threats in Alabama. Her refusal to give up her seat led to a long boycott of the bus system organized by Martin Luther King.
Each little nook and cranny, each part of the board where you see is worn by weather, to me shows her personality, what she went through as a beautiful woman, as a smart woman, as a courageous woman. This is who she was on the inside.
Given her place in history, Ryan Mendoza would like Rosa Parks' house to go on tour across Europe, but he hopes eventually it can be returned to its rightful place in the United States. Duncan Golestani, Al Jazeera.
So see, family, when you stop and you think about what we have gone through as a people, family, it definitely should make you mad, family. It definitely should. How is it that in 2020, we are still going through the same things that we went through after slavery, family? After slavery would change, because we still are slaves, but now we're not wearing the chains anymore, family. How is it, family, that our people fell for the okie doke? And the reason why I say that is because, family, when slavery with chains was taken away from us and we could freely go off the plantation, white people didn't know how to do anything. They did not know how to do anything. So we had to, just like the Indians did, we had to teach them. Then white people, the former plantation owners, they would hire our people to work on their plantations because they didn't know how to do anything. But see, that's when they started sending their kids out there in the fields with our ancestors. That's when they started standing in the kitchen and watching what was made. And our ancestors didn't know no better. So they taught them how to sustain themselves, just like the Indians taught the Pilgrims how to sustain themselves. And look at what they turned around and did to us in the end, family. Look at what happened to our ancestors in the end when they did that, family. Look at what happened. That's a shame, family. It's a shame, and we're still falling for it today. You got Pamela, whatever her name is, Pamela, what's that white woman used to be on the Food Network? Ma, what's the name of that woman that used to be on the cooking show? Pamela what? Pamela on the cooking show. Don't worry about it. Well, anyway, you know what I'm talking about, the woman with the white hair. Pamela. And let me tell you. Huh? Paula Deen. Yeah, Paula Deen, who I'm talking about. Paula Deen had a cooking show. Paula Deen got up there on that cooking show and she talked about her grandmother recipe, her great-great-grandmother, her aunt, 2 sides back on the side of her father's family, gave her this recipe. Pamela was lying. Go up there and find the court documents, family. The woman that she had working for her was a Hebrew woman. She took that Hebrew woman's recipes from her family, and Pamela started cooking on her show, her cooking show, that woman's recipes. That woman went all the way back with Pamela to when Pamela was in her own house cooking that woman's recipes on the stove. Yes. And the woman's family sued Pamela, and they won a huge settlement in court. Look at Jack Daniels. The family that profited off of Jack Daniels And I know my father used to have Jack Daniels growing up. I'm not a drinker. So I know my father used to have Jack Daniels growing up. But look at that white family, profited all of that. They stolen recipes from our family. Look at Harriet Tubman's museum. If it wasn't for that black man, they would have stolen that too. Look at Aunt Jemima. General Mills stole that from that family. Look at Rosa Parks' house. Stolen. Taken away. And now that man is going to tour it around Germany, profiting off of it. And if we want it back, you heard him. You heard what he said. We're gonna have to pay for it powerfully. Look at Barack Obama and his hypocrisy. He gonna get up there and talk like that. And that happened under Barack Obama. That didn't happen under Donald Trump. That happened under Barack Obama. He gonna get up there and he gonna talk about Rosa Parks and all that stuff. And he knew her house was being sold, and he did nothing about it. He did nothing about it. He knew that that house was going to Germany. But some of y'all still want to look at Barack Obama like he's some great leader, when Barack Obama is not none of that at all. But I don't want to go off on a rant, family, so I'm going to end this video right now. It's been kind of long. I just wanted to share some things with you because, like I said, I was talking to a sister earlier today, and when I was talking to her about these things, you know, she didn't know. So I sent her the video so she can look at it, and, you know, it dawned on me. If sis don't know, how many other sisters and brothers out there don't know these things, family? Everything that they have in this country, we created it and we made it, family. Don't you ever forget that. If it wasn't for our people, they wouldn't have nothing that they have, family. And on that, I'm going to say shalom. Have a good night. I'll say shalom to all of you in the chat who I didn't get a chance to speak to personally because I can't see you in the chat right now. I have to ask Pastor Kelly, how can I talk on the live and look at the chat at the same time? I'm going to learn it the next time. So, family, I'll see you next Thursday at 8 o'clock. And until then, family, shalom to you. Shalom to your families, family. I love you so much. I care about you so much, and you know that I do, family. So until next week. Oh, and I have I'm going to be doing a live tomorrow with Prince Richmond, who is a prince of the Ashanti family. Okay, Asante family. I get corrected on that all the time when I talk to them. We're going to be going live. So if you would like to talk to a real Hebrew prince of the Asante people in Ghana, Africa, please come on the live tomorrow. You will be able to ask some questions in real time. He will be able to address you in real time. And you will be able to talk to a real royal family. Woo, family, I just see that lightning in that sky. I'm like, wait a minute, hold up. Okay, family, until next time, you know how I do. I'm going to get it, and I'm going to really go. Bye-bye, shalom.